Guys, welcome. What is going on? How are you doing? I'm good. Glad to be here today. I hope you are as well. I've got, I think, like 3 things I want to do. 2 of them are related, and they're related to reverb. One of them is like something, if you like sound design, and chances are you're watching this because you really like sound design. One of them is like, it's almost like using the convolution reverb as like a sampler, which I know sounds crazy. Oh, and I think we're also going to use tension. I want to give tension a task and see if it does good with, you know, that technique where you add all the MIDI effects and you get like a generative sequence of notes, and then you add a bunch of effects and you can get these really cool ambient things. So I wanted to see if tension could do that, because I feel like that would be more of a challenge. Hey guys, what is going on? OpenSea, it's an NFT marketplace. This is all my art. These are the thumbnails that I make. You can own this art. If you would like to support, purchase it. How exciting. And then you own this art. You'll say, I own SDHO 43. I supported that wonderful old man. Now back to the show. Yeah, in audio effects, you should have Convolution Reverb Pro here. In fact, I actually kind of want to see what the regular Convolution Reverb is, because we're not going to be using any of Convolution Reverb. Like, see all these? These are all like places. And a Convolution Reverb will map your sound. Wow, that sounds... Dry wet's your biggest friend with reverbs, and then going into the EQ and removing lows, because it can be like, see how that changes? Now you might like that there, but just be mindful of some of the lower frequencies, even a little bit. Kind of with a lot of EQing, a lot of excess bass in the low end, not really what you want. And a lot of times when the higher frequencies, you know, we'll tone them down a little bit with an EQ. It sounds good in reverb too, to kind of take some of the highs out, because when some of like the real high highs get baked into a reverb, it can just not sound as good, but it's up to you. So yeah, we've got all these places in convolution reverb. All these places, but you can just go to samples. Like, what is this? Just go to your samples. I don't know if you can hear this. I'm going to have to drag it here. I guess I must have recorded this and processed audio, but just listen to this. So yeah, that sounds interesting, right? So you can just, did you know you could just drag it in here? So like, it's almost like it's almost like you can use convolution reverb as like a sampler, because what do you do in a sampler? Like, as we saw with those other Ableton devices, those other instruments, you know, like the, coming over to instruments here, these like vector grain, emit, you can like, it's like future samplers. So it's like, what do you do with the sampler? You know, you throw a piece of audio in here. So this is our audio. This piece of audio has been thrown in here. And so now it's like I have to figure out exactly what this is doing. I think we're gonna need more dry wet. But listen to this trail it's now giving. I think it's playing our sound through this whole thing. We're just not seeing it. Look at down here how it says 38 seconds. You can change that with the decay. But like when I hit the note, it's almost like I'm not even caring about the note that I press. I'm just waiting for that other. Like, dude, did you know that? Keeps getting louder, at least sounds that way to me. Let's play a chord. It's almost like I don't even want this sound. It's It's almost like it's just giving me a texture. Like I just need, I don't know, it's very cool. So I wanted to show you that. Look at this 38 seconds. What happens if I jack the size up? I found when you jack the size up, oh, it actually just doubled in size, didn't it? Or did it not? Like, listen to that. And I bet you we can probably play with, I don't really need to play with this position. I guess we've got some modulation possibilities. The dampening, might want to just remove some lows. It's just weird, man. The shape, I don't even know. Like, I almost... Did you know about that? And then you can, like, record this and, yeah, resample it. It's almost like a frozen reverb. That was the next reverb trick I wanted to show you. So let's play some more. Listen to that like bass that we just get. I'm playing a very high note, but I think because that sample is so deep. Anyways, let's resample. So I set this audio track right here, right through our sample to resampling. So let's... Okay. Gonna just mute this and then stop this recording. I don't know, just call it capture 1. Now, let's push play. So I don't really want that, but I do want this, and then I don't really want this. So that's pretty cool, right? And then we can do other things like times this by 2 if we're in repitch mode. So that's like some fun sound design things you can do just with, because we're in an audio track, to do with like Ableton's audio engine. But where this really shines is if you open up a MIDI track. And by the way, the reason why I'm able to have like multiple record buttons here is if you go into properties by pushing Command comma, or I'm assuming is Control comma on a PC, or you can just come up to live, go to live preferences, and if you go to record, see how under exclusive I've got it checked for solo, and then there's ARM. Yours probably looks like this. So if you just turn that off, and you can turn off solo as well, but I actually do like to solo a track and then solo another one. Sometimes I like to solo both. You know, like if I've got like 10 tracks playing, I want to hear just what 2 sound like. I might do that with solo, but that's there. So that's just getting yourself familiar with your preferences. Also, if your bit depth is on 16, you probably want to move it to 24. So yeah, wanted to just, man, we're getting so deep, we're even getting into the Ableton preferences. And if you're watching any kind of Ableton content and they're telling you, let's get into the preferences, you might want to turn this off, turn that off, you know, then you know you're getting some good stuff. So like this is really nice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm in this body area, right click, and I'm going to crop the sample. And then I'm going to go into this MIDI track, and I'm going to unrecord this tension one, even though it doesn't matter because the track is muted. And then I'm going to drag Simpla into this MIDI track. I can now put this in here. See how is that like... So now we're able to play it up and down the keyboard. Now, one thing you need to know about this is when you throw any sample into a sampler, if you want it to play back the default pitch, you have to play C3. So I'm playing C3 right now. So if I play on this, hear that? It's the same thing, it's just this is quieter. It always makes it quieter. So let's put up the volume. Now, you might say that sounds so bad. Well, here's things you pretty much always do. Whenever you throw like a sample into a sampler, you're probably, first of all, you always want to check to see if it's playing at the actual start, like the zero crossing. There's not going to be a perfect zero crossing. You're always going to kind of get this, but because I cut this really well, yeah, we've just got a nice section here. So what are we going to do? Well, the first thing is I don't like how I need it to release. So let's jack up this release here. More release. Otherwise, it wouldn't give that effect. So just always be aware of that. Now, if you're like, hey, man, I'm not getting any release. Well, it depends. If you're throwing into a sampler a very small thing, it's not going to be able to give you a release unless you activate a looping mode, which we don't really need a looping mode because we have so much. I just wanted to show you that you could do this. Now, it's still got that clicky thing, so now we're going to give some attack to get rid of the clicky. Notice how it's gone now? Wonderful, and then you've got all of your stuff. Maybe you want to give it some filter drive. So right there, that was really cool. That was really cool. And to be honest with you, this sounds so good, this tension over here, so I'm going to unactivate this, and I'm just getting... I almost want to throw a different reverb on here because like the beginning part is like... not enough for me, but this sounds so good. Like this is like listen if without the convolution reverb. Oh my god, so bad, right? Let's like lower the let's lower this pitch here. And look, this is just a default tension. We haven't even done anything. You know what I mean? Like, and just so you guys know, this isn't new. You know, in fact, Convolution Reverb Pro, and in fact, actually, I want to know if there's any major difference between Convolution Reverb Pro and Convolution Reverb. I don't know if Convolution Reverb was like the first iteration. I kind of just want to know if this gives like different processing. No, it's like a light version. Okay, forget it. All right. Okie dokie. If you double tap these, you will minimize them, but you probably knew. Okay, so before we go on to the next reverb technique, which is freeze reverb, I have to just mention, where are we? Convolution Reverb Pro and throwing a sample in there. By the way, you're gonna get different results with different samples. You could probably even use like really quick ones. So like what happens if we throw like one of these that's just like a few milliseconds in here? What's it gonna do? Actually, let's go to B, so we don't lose our place. Switch over to B, and now see if we go back to A. Do we still have it? Yeah, there we go. Go to B, and now this thing is very short, right? So let's see. See, look, it's down here, 0.28 seconds, so a quarter of a second. Then we go back to A, and we've got 78 seconds, mostly because we jacked up this size. Also play with decay if you want, but I was loving that sound. So if we go into B now, this thing is like 0.28 seconds. Let's see what it does. just to show like it's a completely different sample. I bet you it still gives us something kind of interesting. Let's see. Well, we probably have to unmute it. Note this, by the way, this is what it sounds like. Yeah, that's what it sounds like, okay? So what... I don't know, you could probably do interesting things with it. What if you turn decay all the way up? Do we get a longer? Yeah, so you're gonna get different sounds. So if you wanted like, yeah, so just be aware of that. Switch back to A. So if you're throwing in like a 2-second thing and you're wondering why it doesn't sound all amazing and cavernous like that, it's because I threw in this long sample, which is, I guess, just some piece of sound design. So like when we're doing these sound design things and we're printing it to audio and then we're throwing it in a sampler, well, instead of throwing it in a sampler or one of our future samplers, as we were talking about, like Emit or any like granular synthesizer, like that vector grain, which I figured out a new thing about vector grain that was stumping me before. I'll probably circle back to it. I've been actually doing a lot of research on those like newer stuff. But anyways, yeah, so like this was the thing. So just to hear the difference there. So this tension track, I'm actually just going to close down because like I really like this sound, and it's so crazy because like we can just start tweaking tension and then get even better sound. Throw a sample into convolution reverb, and as I was saying, even though I always knew of this technique, or that I knew you could do this, I didn't know that you could get like these incredibly unique sound textures with it. Like it's almost like I didn't think it could work that good. And then when I watched that video, and I don't know what convolution reverb the person was using, and it shouldn't matter. You just need to have the ability to just drop any sample you want in there and have it sound good. Obviously, if you have Ableton, use Convolution Reverb Pro. But yeah, I was like, I'm like, that sounds really good. And then I was like, oh, I wonder if Ableton's Convolution Reverb, I'm like, I know it allows me to drop samples in there, but will they sound really good? And then I was like, holy crap, it is. And it's almost like we're using it as a sampler. Like we basically didn't put any, we put a default tension. Like a default tension sounds, pardon my language, kind of crap. You know, it's like, oh, wow. And then we're able to put this on, but we won't because we're going to move on here. I need to show you the other reverb technique before we move on. And I'm going to just delete that dumb one. I don't want that to occupy any real estate in my precious Ableton. So we've got this thing, right? Let's play it. And then what we're going to do is to demonstrate this, we're going to use the regular reverb. And here's the technique. And this is a technique you should know of. And we're going to use it kind of like we're going to capture audio and throw it in here, which means we should probably, I'm going to Command T, Control T on a PC, Command Option I, Control Option I on a PC. I'm going to go to resampling here because what I want to do is I want to launch this clip, you know, this like deep one. I'm just lowering the track fader just because it's easier. And you've got reverb freeze. I'm going to turn these off because I want as much to come through. And while it's playing, I want to hit freeze. I don't know if I want to. Hear how it's still going? That's this freeze. Now, will it change if I do some of this stuff? So if I unclick freeze, it's gonna fade out. It's got a really long decay, that's why. Maybe a squirrel or a bunny. That's what chunky. Chunky! Oh, it's a squirrel. Yeah, this squirrel is starting to like us. Squirrel. I've been noticing squirrels have been very friendly, want to like hang out and stuff. Maybe it's because we're in the new. So when you use like a very drony sound with a reverb freeze, it can kind of just sound kind of like it. So I'm going to go to samples and I'm going to click bell. I have a feeling like a bell. Bell sounds are really cool. Like this is an interesting sound. I think because it's more pitched, I think it might give us a better result. So let's click freeze. And then turn off the track. It sounds just like it. So anyways, what you would do is you get these like frozen reverbs. Let's do a different bell. Let's see what this one sounds like. Unfreeze it. Okay. Now this is more unpredictable. So if I go into here, I know I have to record this. So let's record it. I just love looking at the recorded audio. So just record as much as you want. If you wanted to fade out, not like it really matters. And then I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go into here, turn off freeze, because I don't want it to work too hard, because I'm just a nice guy like that. And then I'm going to go into here, and then I'm going to throw this in here. And now, just like before, and again, you know, you want to be mindful of where you start. You can now play this unique sound in simpler. Wow. Thanks for destroying my ears right there. Come over here to controls, come over here to transposition, shift down arrow. Got our filter. And then what we can do is we can do different stuff, like we can loop it here. So like we could just hold it down indefinitely. When that happens and it doesn't obey, see how it did there? You have to like just re-trigger it. Like some things you have to stop it before it'll happen. Watch, it should be different this time. I'm holding a note down, by the way. See? So that's cool. Let's just get rid of that. I don't care about that. I just wanted to show you. So like you can do these frozen reverbs. So that's the regular reverb. So we covered Convolution Reverb Pro for using your own unique samples in there, almost using it like a sampler, which is just crazy. This is the traditional Ableton Reverb, algorithmic reverb. And then if we go to hybrid reverb and we drop that on any track, we're not even going to use it. I just want to show you. Freeze. So what's cool about hybrid reverb, just because we're on the subject, is see this thing? This is our convolution reverb, right? Doesn't that look familiar? I don't think it has all of the ones the other ones do. So what you're doing is you're combining both a convolution reverb, which is right down here. See this attack, decay, size, and then the different parameters down here. And then this is your algorithmic reverb. So it's combining two. And so you can combine them together. Now, the one thing to note is that by default right here, it's on serial, which means your sound is actually being passed into this very long convolution reverb, which I think is kind of odd. And then that sound that's passed through the convolution reverb then makes its way into this algorithmic reverb. But if you put it on parallel, which I don't know why that's not on by default, maybe there's something I'm not picking up here, but your sound gets passed into the convolution reverb, you hear it, but then you're also hearing your original sound also being passed into the algorithmic reverb here, and then you can like blend between them. Or you could just put it all to this, which is you're only getting the convolution reverb, or you can put it up here. It's really just sound design. If you kind of like a sound but want to see how it sounds different, you can change it. But yeah, I think it's normally on serial, and if you wanted to only do algorithmic, remember I said it was this in the blue, you could do that here. This thing's grayed out because of course there's nothing to blend between. And then if you did convolution, you would just get the convolution part. So there we go. Let's get a fresh MIDI track and close things out here. You know, drop a sample that's anywhere from like 3 seconds to much higher, and then you can get these very interesting tones. Almost like you're using the convolution reverb, almost as if you're using the convolution reverb as like a sampler. And when that popped into my head, I was like, you know, this is like, if it sounds good, because I had no idea, because that's the thing, it's got to sound good, right? If I was like telling you like, oh, you can, because like for instance, if we come over here to wavetable and drop wavetable on this MIDI track, gonna unarm that and arm this, We can do the same thing actually. In fact, let's drag that sample that we liked in there. Look at it. That's that same thing that we used. Now, it doesn't always sound good. Ouch. Why? I'm gonna turn on sub and I'm gonna go to semitones, shift it down 2 octaves. And what's really unique here, boy, running out of screen real estate. By the way, if you go, we're going back into preferences. If you go to look and feel, zoom display, you can zoom in the display. Because like some people have like certain display setups where they want it to look smaller or bigger depending. But like for me, I like to be all zoomed in here. But so like it threw this thing in and it's going to be giving us a note, a tone here. So if we go to tuner, look, it's giving us an E. Yours probably is on 440 hertz. You're probably not a hippie like me. That's looking at it's put them all to pitch, right? And let's remove some of the frequencies because it sounds too like computery. Give it some filter drive. Now, if you take a look at this. And so what you can do is like, I'm playing a C. Oh wow, it already is. Now, I'm playing a C. What if I move through? The whole point of the wavetable is that when you move through, it stays in pitch. Is that still C? So yeah, so you can do... Now I found out you can't really do a whole lot of that. So if you take this really slow... and then you go to matrix, oscillator 1 position, give it just a little bit. See how it's moving slightly? It's just giving us a little bit of movement. Let's give it up to 4. Just a little bit of harmonic movement, but now if we put it up a lot. By the way, oh, and that's actually a thing that popped in my head in the shower, was to tell you guys that if you aren't feeling very good, if you jump into the shower, it will make you feel a lot better. Like, the water has a purifying effect. You know, everything is, and we're made up of the 4 elements. Everything on the planet is made up of the 4 elements: earth, air, water, fire. And then you could say the 5th element that ties everything together, ether or love or whatever you want to say. And so like, we're made of water. We're like mostly water. We're like actually water beings, believe it or not. So here's what I want to do. I want to go into MIDI effects, drop a pitch. I'm going to jack this down an octave. And I either want to use plectrum or hammer. And I want to get a delay. Where are we? I don't know if this is going to sound good, but I figure I'll close out by doing something kind of interesting. Get our arpeggiator. I'm going to put it here. Sort of like this is like kind of like the master starting pitch, and then we want to start getting the arpeggiate. Now we want to start arpeggiating the notes because I want a bunch of notes to build up in the delay. It can get kind of loud, so I might want to turn down the... I'm going to go to free. Let's get that reverb back. Just basic reverb, because I don't want to be tweaking reverb settings. I just want to see if this, because these are shorter sounds, they might actually benefit from reverb. So let's bring the dry wet all the way down, bring it back, and see if we get anything. Most of the time, like when you're getting that many notes, reverb's just gonna like muddy it up, but let's see if it helps us here. Oftentimes, if you go back to MIDI effects and get a note length, can get really loud, so you gotta like watch it a little bit. But now let's put this random here and put it to buy, so it gives notes above and below what we're playing. I want the chance. You're not gonna hear anything unless you get some chance. Now we can make a clip. And let's make it legato, and now let's click play, and now let's tune while we play. Sometimes this can sound good, sometimes it can't. I put E because I just did an E note, so I'm like, oh, let's do major harmonic. But I'm just gonna drag minor here. And I'm gonna click play. Let's start playing with the tension. It's cool because when you make changes, things will change. Yeah. And when you bring things up, they'll like slowly fade in. Damper and termination normally like damper and terminate the sound, so like it'll give you an interesting sound, but it'll kind of make things sound like more damp, like less ringy. So look, let's get rid of damper. All right, now let's play termination. You have to give a second for it to adjust. Yeah, I like never use these two. You can just switch. Let's go to plectrum. Take the choices down. Filter global is kind of cool. Check this out. Okay, I had no idea that was going to happen, but I should have known that. Now I know how to make that sound. Just record all that in. And, yeah, why would I do such a thing? That was the other thing I wanted to do, was to see if we could get something really nice with tension. And then the one we really haven't used in a while, electric. Just dropped it. Like, it's almost like it's just meant to play. I'm just gonna try different things. You always have to be monitoring the sound. That was pretty cool. Now let's see if it works good with just like an operator with, actually, no, let's do wavetable. Look, see, they're all still playing, like these MIDI effects. Let's take a look at wavetable. Just sine wave. go up the wavetable. Pretty cool. But now I'm actually kind of curious, what does it do with just white noise? We better lower this frequency first. Let's play that. There's no pitch information, so it's kind of interesting. So I hope you like that. I don't know, that was pretty great. And I was gonna split that up into like 2 hangouts, but I'm like, nah, because I really want to do all of that, and I'm lucky that I remembered to do all of that. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you soon.